love that music. I don't know why I love that music. Hey, anyway, guys, what's up? Welcome to Television Talk, TV Talk, brought to you by Ayn Rand Center UK, where we talk about popular and or critically acclaimed TV shows from an objectivist perspective, and sometimes do little comparisons to Ayn Rand's work, Atlas Shrugged, etc. I'm here with my my partners in crime, Jennifer Bouani and Jack Schumann, and today we are going to be talking about the TV show Fargo, mostly just the first season, which came out in 2014. And guys, I don't think you put any merit in this, but IMDb gives it an 8.9 rating.
Pretty high. That's pretty high.
Just under The Godfather, I have to say. So,
what did Sherlock get as a rating?
I don't know. I'd have to go off this page and look it up. Probably somewhere in the same neighborhood.
I'm gonna look it up.
You look that up.
I will.
Anyway, this show, the first season starred Billy Bob Thornton as Lauren Malvo, Martin Freeman as Lester Nygaard, Alison Tolman as the awesome Molly Solverson, Colin Hanks as Gus Grimly, and some more interesting cast in there, folks. But those are the main players. And the story sort of revolves around good old Lester Nygaard's unfortunate run-in with Lauren Malvo in an emergency room that sets off after the run-in a series of unfortunate. It's probably the subtitle for the entire series, a series of unfortunate events, or don't go making a deal with the devil. Hold on a second, guys. My Siri is trying to act up for some reason, and I have to turn it off.
So in the middle of that, I will say Sherlock got a 9.1 out of 10.
Not that much better, and you appreciated that show far more than you appreciated Fargo.
Yes.
So the writer is this cat named Noah Hawley, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Noah Hawley. I wasn't familiar with him before this show, and he's of course done quite a bit of stuff. In fact, is a writer on Bones, I believe, which is a show that I think you guys would probably appreciate if I'm not wrong. Did you guys appreciate Bones, like Buffy?
Yeah. I started watching Bones because David Boreanaz is in it, and but then I stopped. It didn't hold my attention, despite David Boreanaz.
That's the main guy.
Yeah, and he was Angel on Buffy. Honestly, he's a beautiful man to look at, and he is great. Yeah, he is. He was actually chosen to be an actor. He was walking his dog one day, and somebody, and it was like one of those fairy tale stories. An agent walks up to him and is like, "I want to represent you. I want to put you in movies and TV."
So he's never struggled.
I don't know. Which could be part of the reason why I hear he has attitude issues. Oh, could be. But I never thought of him as a particularly amazing actor. Like, hands down, Nathan Fillion is a better actor. I think so. Anyhow.
Most definitely. I want to see if you guys have read any of Hawley's books, because Hawley's an accomplished Hawley's an accomplished author. He just doesn't write screenplays and television shows, but he's a best-selling author. Have you heard of these novels? The Conspiracy of Tall Men?
Oh, I have heard of that one. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yep. Other People's Weddings, The Punch. These do sound familiar. I hate to say I consider myself somewhat literate, and I have not read any of these. The Good Father, which sounds like a book I should read for so many reasons. So he's quite an accomplished guy, and he wrote a very intricate script. The premise of the beginning of which I just described, but the complexity of the events that happens, I think requires a literary mind of that stature. So guys, what did you think of the show? Good, bad, or indifferent?
This is one of those shows that I did not really enjoy watching, but after it was over and I had some time away from it and had to think about, like, what is the theme, I could appreciate the artistic effort, and I appreciated the archetypes of the characters, and then I thought, oh yeah, okay, that was pretty good. But actually watching it, it was so dark and so miserable and very hard to really get behind these really except for Molly, bad characters.
On Gus Grimly's a good guy.
Gus is good, yeah. Gus and Molly's dad.
Molly's dad's a great guy, and when you in season 2 you get into the history of Molly's dad, he's not only a good guy, he's a awesome guy.
And and we talked about that. I am going to watch season 2. I do hear season 2 is a lot better. This is one of those shows for me where I would not have finished watching it if we didn't have to for this podcast. And that's a good thing, I think, because it really it allowed me to, because there were the later episodes. I think we kind of talked around like a turning point after like episode 6, after Molly. Gus unfortunately friendly fires on Molly, and then things change. The tone, I think, changes a little bit, and we start focusing more on the kind of the heroes, right? Molly and Gus and the dad, and but it was, especially coming off of Sherlock, where you have these two brilliant men who are pitted against each other in this, good guy, bad guy bromance, that like are just equally as brilliant and driven by their motivations. To see that cat and mouse game play out, as opposed to the character that Billy Bob Thornton plays, which is just a straight up psychopathic narcissist, or nihilist, I should say, who just, enjoys destruction, just wants to destroy. I never actually, and I probably missed it, but I never understood why he was just wreaking so much havoc. Like, did somebody hire him?
He does work for some kind of corporate entity, which they sort of allude to. He does answer to somebody who sends him out. He's an independent contractor, of course, but I think he gets his kicks on the side, sowing additional chaos. And that
moment when he goes to the house and he tells the little kid that the house is haunted, at that moment that he's just it's the kicks for him. He just wants to create chaos and fear.
Well, everything he does, with the exception of a couple killings, is extracurricular, right? I mean, he's contracted out. What is it? He's contracted out in the beginning to get somebody, but the scheme to blackmail the supermarket guy, and the elaborate way in which he does it, tying the man's paranoia and religious beliefs into his method of attack, very Count of Monte Cristo in a way. That's all extracurricular. His tormenting of Lester Nygaard, which ends up sort of being Lester's rebirth, right? His association with this guy gives Lester Nygaard the testicular fortitude to do some dark things, but also to assert himself in the world. It sort of reminded me of, you ever see that Star Trek episode where I think Captain Kirk gets split in two, so his aggressive part gets split from his passive part, and
the original Star Trek, or
original Star Trek, original Star Trek, and you find that he can't live without this aggressive part of himself. The other part dies, and it's as if Lester Nygaard, the passive man, his entire life, taking abuse through the entire first two episodes. He's mercilessly abused by everybody, but it takes a little of that hard-ass aggression and cruelty to assert yourself a little bit,
bring that out in him. So, and this potentially is going on to another topic, or leading to another topic. Allie had 2 super chats, the first one for $5, the next one for $2. The first one, after episode 6, the tone of the show changed a lot of the dark humor died down. It was fine, but it wasn't subtle with the chain. I think she means change. It made me ask why. That's an interesting question. And then the next thing that she said is Lorne is known as the devil on the show. And that was something, Mark, that we were talking about last night. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for a while I thought this guy has to be Satan.
Yeah.
Because he's doing
Satan?
every Satan. Yeah.
Could it be Satan?
Yeah. So thank you, church ladies. So he's I thought he had to be Satan because he was so brazen in everything he did, so out in the open, so unashamed of his violence and anti-lifeness, that I thought, yeah, this is Lucifer. And then he's in Lou's diner talking to Molly's dad, eating a piece of apple pie, and says, I haven't had a piece of apple pie like that since the garden.
I remember. Yeah.
He says that when he walks out, which is clearly a reference to the Garden of Eden, or I'm not Mark Pellegrino. And and so, I didn't expect him to die. I expected him to find a way, the way the devil does, like in I don't know if you've ever read Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. It's about a band of Indian hunters in the 19th century who become rogue and just start killing people randomly to profit off their scalps. So it doesn't matter if you're a native anymore; they'll kill you just because they want the $5 for the scalp. And there's the leader of the band is this strange, huge, bald man that speaks multiple language. They find him in the middle of the desert. I forget what his name is, the preacher or something like that. I forget what they call him. And he's sort of their leader and tempts them into all these acts of savagery. And in the end, he survives. Everyone's getting killed around him, and he walks through it like he's made of Teflon. And I thought Lauren Malvo's character was going to do the same, and it would have been very dark if that had happened, but it didn't, because of the heroes of the story. The heroes prevail.
Yeah, that was great. I loved seeing that. I loved seeing the now when we were talking last night, because I hadn't seen the last episode yet, and you guys gave me spoilers, but I must have forgotten the way that Malvo died. You talked about how Lester set a bear trap, and I was thinking that Lester was going to be the one to shoot him. But when I saw Gus drive by, and that wolf, right, the predator, that wolf, and he stops and he sees the red BMW and he waits for Lauren to leave, and he goes into his house, and then you don't know what you don't know that he's in his house, right? When he comes back there with the fixing his bear claw or bear trap leg, that he's there, but you just don't know what he is going to do. I just thought it was so heroic, and it was also really well acted too, because this is a guy who didn't want to be a cop, but he's been trained as one, so he knows how to handle a gun, and he knows procedures and stuff. And he ended up, becoming a mailman, a postal worker, but to protect his wife and child, he becomes so courageous and just goes in there. And I thought that was great. It was a really great, and it was an interesting scene too, because he had to shoot him a bunch of times, right?
Yes, he did.
He had to first he shoots him 3 times, and you think that he's dead, and then he comes back, and then he shoots him like 2 headshots, right? One in the mouth, one in the side of the head. That was really interesting.
That was a perfect arc for him too, since in his mind, and he's not entirely wrong, a lot of the casualties that happens after his first confrontation with Lauren Malvo happens because he chickened out. He chickened out of the confrontation. He didn't do his job. Now, he didn't do it because he knew that this guy was going to kill him. He knew that he was going to get bested. and he wanted to protect his daughter. He wanted to be present for his daughter, and he was acting for his own life. Do you blame him? Would you think? Do you think what he did? Do you think what he did was sinful, wrong, bad, immoral?
No, not at all. I think it was 100,000% the moral and right thing to do.
Even though he's a cop and he, as a police officer, has a moral obligation.
He's not a police officer anymore.
To his job, no, right. But then when he first confronted Lauren Malvo, he was a cop.
Yeah.
He has a job to do as a cop, and the job is to protect his community against the guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something else. You're talking about the first time that he didn't report it, right?
Was that immoral?
Good question.
He was standing up for protecting his own life, protecting his own interests.
But he still has an obligation, a legal obligation.
And maybe even a moral one as a police officer, right? His job is to protect the lives of the citizens of the community. He's confronting what he knows to be a very serious very serious threat. A very disturbing individual is now in his community.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's threatened his life.
Yeah.
And he's got that spidey sense, that cop sense, that this person is going to be very, very dangerous down the road. And of course, later Leonard kills, 20 or 30 more people.
Right.
Before he's finally stopped. So do you think it's immoral what he did?
What do you think, Jennifer?
So I think it was really understandable he would protect his daughter, and that's the self-interest over the community. But he probably should have reported it sooner than letting it get away. That was cowardly. I think he should have trusted the people that he reported up to be able to protect him after that reporting. But in the moment on the street, I get why he walked away. Right. Now speaking of sin and immorality, there's Lester Nygaard, who the first couple of episodes fascinates me. Yeah. He's a very fascinating character, isn't he? Yeah. Why does he fascinate you? That moment in the emergency room, he's got the broken nose and he meets Lauren for the first time. You think he had a choice. Does he engage this guy to go kill the bully or not? And he didn't. He didn't make the choice. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He went with no action. And yet, look what played out because he didn't make a choice. And I think that's such an interesting comment on people who think they're getting away being moral by evading a choice, as opposed to someone who flat out says, no, don't do it, or even somebody who said, yes, do it, that might even be somewhat more admirable because they're choosing than to just run away from it. Now, I got the impression that there was permission given, but it was done in a very strange way so that it was tough to tell if he said yes. He was saying yes to the nurse. So we think. Yeah. But it could have also been in response to both. Well, simultaneously. That's he's not making a choice. By even if he's purposely being unclear.
I agree with Jennifer on that. The refusal to make a choice is a choice in and of itself. and to make a
Hey, that's what Rush says too.
Oh, really?
Right? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Objectivist.
There we go. So I think that that it was. He thinks that he still thinks he's like protected morally in some way if he doesn't come right out and say, yes, I want you to kill my wife. Like he can't go that far. Pardon? The bully, not the wife. Oh, sorry, the bully. Yeah, the bully, because he ends up killing his wife. But yeah, it's interesting, and he changes, right? Because once he kills his wife, he just starts to make straight up like criminal decisions. right? Like absolutely criminal decisions. We have a few super chats to get through here. So first from Allie for $10. I'm not surprised by Lester and Lorne's death. They were foreshadowed during the beginning. Lorne talking about being a wolf, but someone stronger and superior gets him. Lester was frozen over a lake.
Yeah. So wait. Yeah. Who said that?
Allison Beard.
Copy that. Yeah. So I think Lester Nygaard's character is interesting, though. Can you distill anything positive out of his arc? Right, he goes from being an utterly impotent person in every respect of the word. He's a terrible salesman. He's an inadequate husband, I guess. Probably can't satisfy his wife in that way. She certainly makes a production out of it. And he seems to be straddling.
Let's bullies beat him up.
Let's bullies beat him up. He has no self-esteem. It's only once he starts to positively act by accident, by breaking the rules, by doing things that he thinks he shouldn't do, that he starts to become an assertive guy and ends up winning the wife who loves him, winning Salesman of the Year award, becoming a new man. Does that tell us anything? Is there something in this message of transformation, as negative as it's based, that we can draw something positive from?
Perhaps I don't know. I think he literally in the hospital when he meets Malvo, I think that is his deal with the devil moment. Mm-hmm. Made a deal with the devil, and one of the things that the devil gives you is balls and power, right? And in the end, deals with the devil never work out. But
he doesn't have the balls. It doesn't have it. He doesn't have it immediately then.
No, it happened. It happened. You know where I felt like it happened the first time was when he went back over to the widow's, to the Hess widow's house, and basically had his way with her. And you see this, like, he's there on the bed and he's behind it and he's looking at the picture of Hess the bully, and he's just going at it
in every way. He has won now. In every way he's conquered his childhood.
Right. It's and it was like, and that sex position, right, is a position of power, and I felt like you see it in his face there the first time that, oh, something's changing about Lester.
Right.
But I do want to get back to the question of the wolf, because I thought that was very symbolic. The wolf, not nearly as symbolic as when we did the night of, when we were talking about the cat, right? But the wolf, we see the wolf twice, and it's one time with Gus, and the other time when Lorne sees him for the last time. He looks out the window, and that's kind of that's the moment where somebody stronger is getting him. And I love that, because Gus was the stronger person, right?
And before it was Lorne. So
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So let's talk about Molly Solverson. She's a pretty extraordinary character who struggles through. I mean, I'm really not done with Lester Nygaard's arc. I think there's something to be gleaned from, assertiveness, positive action, even though it came out of completely negative place, breaking the rules, not doing what you're supposed to do. There's something in a more conventional realm that can be taken from that and seen as sort of a roadmap to thriving. Not committing crimes, but break the rules and step outside the box and do what you don't think you're capable of, and you'll find that you're capable of much more than you think. But Solverson is a woman in a man's world, but in an incompetent man's world. Once her chief dies, her chief is actually, the first chief is very competent and recognizes her competence, which is one of his great virtues, I think. And something that nobody else in the force, especially the new the new chief recognizes until he's in over his head and completely flailing and drowning, and she's capable of handling it. But they set up the new chief's inability to police from the very beginning when it comes to the crime scenes, and he gets sick. He vomits. He doesn't have the stomach for it. He finally realizes that 8 episodes in.
And what did you think of this is oh wow, I'm just finding all kinds of great reasons to incorporate super chat questions. So I want to know what you think of the sheriff, who is Saul from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Like, did that change the way that you thought about that character? Because one of the super chats, Louise, for 10 pounds, thank you. I got a bad vibe off Molly's dad, but I realized it was because a character he played in a different show. Is that ever an issue in casting something that something you'll consider for casting for the strike? But
I mean, I think at this day and age, we're beyond those kinds of preconceptions, right? Certainly back in the 60s and 70s, you're cast in something, it sometimes stayed with you like a stain for life. Yeah, you're typecast and you could never ever get out of it. But today there's too much versatility and crossover, and I think people understand acting. You're not the character, and they give you the opportunity to try something new. I think they have to certainly see it in some of your work, see vestiges of it in some of your work, but I don't think that should carry over. I mean, Keith Carradine's character was stoic, he was interesting, and it was quiet, sort of like Mount Rushmore, and I wanted to get behind that story a little bit more. His limp had a history, and the guy's courage, the fact that he would sit out there and wait for the devil himself to come to his doorstep with his shotgun prepared to take him out, told me that this is a guy of real substance. And of course, season 2 is about that very time where he acquired the injury that gave him the limp. I didn't see him as any past character. I don't really have a problem with that kind of stuff with people ordinarily.
I guess I saw, I mean, in terms of the sheriff, I was seeing a lot of Saul in the sheriff. Were you?
Yeah. I think he played a similar character.
It's sort of him. I think is sort of the same thing in I'm Nobody, right? I think that's the title of the movie that he just did.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of plays that bumbling character, but Saul was actually quite competent, at least in Breaking Bad. He was competent as hell.
Yeah.
And slick and knew the law. He was just cheesy and going for the quick buck, and had aspects to his character that were unsavory. But this guy, he was likable. He wanted to think the best of people. Like he says to Solverson in the end, "I'm just not a cop. I'm not made for this. You are. I'm not. I don't have the stomach for it."
I thought that was a really great moment. Because if anything else, even though he was incompetent, at least he's honest, right? At least he's not trying to like put his thumb on Molly when he is kind of cock blocking her in the beginning. He really doesn't like realize what a good cop she is. And his actions come from honesty and benevolence, wanting to see the best in people, which is why it was so hard for him to come to terms with Lester being a bad guy.
It's hard. There's the classic saying that, the mother can't believe that her kid killed somebody, right? If you've ever watched the Ted Bundy tapes, Ted Bundy's mother is a tragic figure. She couldn't believe that her son had done these horrible things. And imagine being in that position, and that chief was like that. Somebody you went to high school with, you can't believe this guy's capable of committing these crimes. And you're right, it came out of a benevolence that makes him very likable. And his confession in the end, where he hands over the reins to the person who really deserves it, is a really big move. It makes you really like him, as opposed to Lester Nygaard, who goes in the opposite direction. You think okay, these terrible events have birthed you. You are now a man. Okay, now you can put that stuff behind you and be an assertive man and live a good life. But then he challenges the devil and does something worse. He sacrifices his wife, a woman who totally loves him innocently, like a child, and he sacrifices her. And up until that point, there was a part of me that wasn't not rooting for Lester. There was a part of me that saw him as an innocent who was so abused. He lashed out in an impulsive moment, and it set him down this trail. But in that path, he discovered a cleverness and a cunning and aspects of his personality that he might not have otherwise. And there was something to that discovery that I was sort of still kind of on his side, not completely against him, even when he blackmailed his or betrayed his brother. But when he gave up his wife like that, I'm like, that's it, you're done.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
But that wasn't the final straw for you, right? You probably didn't like him a lot earlier.
I didn't, when he gave up his brother, I didn't like it. So, and I was thinking about that more because we were talking about that last night. For me, it lost any like benevolence I had toward Lester, because I could see him giving up his brother because his brother's been a douchebag to him, and his brother's, questionable and stuff himself. But to plant the gun on the boy, on a 10-year-old boy who's, arguably on the spectrum of something, and also to just ruin the life of the wife and the child, and that the wife is going to forever believe that her husband, who she thought she knew, was having an affair with and murdered his wife, and he's okay with that. He's okay with he's okay with, like, well, just in the same way that Lorne doesn't seem to care about the people that he kills. Lester doesn't seem to care about the people that he sacrifices. Certainly not his wife, because he never shed a real tear over
her. No, he didn't. And so you think Lorne and Lester are sort of
he becomes
the same, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, we have more super chats from somebody. I may read these out of order because it's relevant. So Allie, for $10, thank you. I don't pity Lester, considering he basically turned into Lorne. I think that's why Lorne befriends him. My theory is he wants someone to see what he sees, meaning Lorne wants someone to see what he sees. I think what Lester did to his wife was horrible. Yes, agreed. What do you guys think about that? If I read that as it was intended, that Lorne needs other people to see what a bad guy he is, or wants somebody like.
I don't think he needs that at all. Yeah, I don't think he needs attention from people.
Chaos.
Yeah, I think it's all. I don't think he needs an audience. He just enjoys like Jennifer said, the destruction and the chaos for its own sake. And he's not ashamed of what and who he is, but I don't think he needs an audience.
Yeah, he is the definition of chaos. That one scene when the two FBI guys, Key and Peele, who I love them, were sitting in the car, and they completely miss Lorne coming in with an assault rifle and just destroying, killing 22 people in the building. And it's just like, here's chaos enters, now chaos is leaving. We'll see you again soon.
But he's so brazen. You could never anticipate that as a cop or as anybody. A few decades back, there was a guy who started shooting at people at Universal Studios, and he had walked down the middle of the street with the rifle in his hand for a long time. But nobody even batted an eye. I'll tell you another story where something happens in plain sight, but nobody's really taking it seriously because it's so strange. It's just so brazen. I was driving down Gardner Street or up Gardner Street in Hollywood, and suddenly there is a naked man walking in front of me, buck naked. All he has on is a wristwatch, walks right past a schoolyard with crowded schoolyard with kids, walks across Sunset Boulevard, continued like across Sunset Boulevard, which is about 5 lanes.
Nobody stopped him yet.
In broad daylight. Nobody's stopping. I'm following it. I'm on the phone with 911. I'm saying there is a naked man walking northbound on Gardner Street. He's only wearing a freaking wristwatch. He just walked by a schoolyard, for crying out loud. He just crossed Sunset Boulevard, and he walked. He had another like huge city block to go. Then he crossed Hollywood Boulevard. Nobody stopped him. He went into an apartment complex and disappeared.
Oh no.
And I was on the phone for 10 minutes with the cops, trailing him, right behind him, going, and the guy was walking with purpose. Like he knew exactly where he was going, what he was doing, what he was all about. Anyway, but it's so out there that, you know, the man on the street looks at it and says, that can't be happening. Lorne Malvo pulls out a assault weapon in front of 2 cops, walks right across the street with not hiding it in the least. You're thinking, that's impossible. No, it's not. Weirder things have happened.
I really liked that scene, how they didn't show you it. They just showed the windows and the sound. I thought that was brilliant.
That's very good.
Yeah, they had a lot of those. They had a lot of really good effect moments where they took out the, either they didn't show you something and they just let you hear it, or they took out the audio altogether and you just and put in different music, right? And you see events happening, like when the fish are falling on the fish are falling on the thing. There's like religious, music playing after the I think after the owner, the grocery store owner comes and sees the tragedy of his son die. But so another super chat, a couple more. Thank you to Jonathan's in the house, Jonathan Honig. So nice to see you here, Jonathan. Ali, for $2. This may be a question for you, Mark, because it's a little philosophical. What was the crocodile dilemma in the show?
A crocodile dilemma is sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, it's a paradoxological whatever paradox. So I don't know. Well, like anything that Lester did, I think would have. If he never killed his wife, would he have ever become his own man?
No. But most people would take care of that by divorcing her.
Right.
But it was an impulsive act. I mean, and it's hard to act that particular moment from an acting point of view where you do something accidentally on purpose. There's a great movie with Richard Gere, and I think Diane Lane is in it. Is Diane Lane in it? I can't remember the name of it, but he kills his wife who's having an affair. And what?
Sleeping with the Enemy?
No. I'll remember it, but I haven't slept for a week, so I can't remember things right now. Anyway, his wife is sort of confessing her infidelity to him, and he's so upset that he has something in his hand, and he just sort of absent-mindedly hits her.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of fugue state way of behaving is really hard to do. Have
you had to do that?
I've never had to do that, but when I've seen it done as masterfully as it was by Richard Gere and by Martin Friedman, it scares me because that's tough. And because it looked like he just was like mad, and he just impulsively, tapped her with the fucking hammer, a ball peen hammer. And then
Unfaithful, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Unfaithful.
Oh,
that's it. Is that an Adrian Lyne movie?
closed out my phone already, so hold on.
Sorry.
From the director of Fatal Attraction. It's not telling me. Oh, director. Yep, you're right. Adrian Lyne.
Yeah, what I like about him is he films, which this might have contributed somewhat to Richard Gere's ability to do that. I mean, he's just a very good actor, but he shoots on long lenses. Adrian does, so he's far away from the action all the time. So you don't have the camera as an encumbrance to your concentration, which is great. Anyway, that's just a bit of
no. So Allie again. Allie, you're like kicking in
super chat queen today.
Buco bucks today for $2. What Easter eggs from the movies did you see? I'm really bad at Easter eggs unless it's a Marvel movie.
I'm bad at remembering movies I saw.
Oh, I mean, you mean that's
so do you mean, Allie, do you mean the Fargo, like Fargo the movie? What Easter eggs did we see in the TV show that they referred back to?
Well, clearly the money at the fence is a reference, I think a throwback to Fargo the movie. The money that Oliver Platt's character discovers that sets him on his path to riches. Yeah, there's sort of this fatalistic notion to this script where, you know, it's a series of accidents that sort of make these people who they are, right? It makes Oliver Platt's, without discovering this amount of money, would he have become the grocer king of North Dakota or whatever? And had Martin Freeman not, you know, challenged his own status quo by doing a couple of bad things, would he have become the salesman of the year and the success, and presumably happily married before he gave his wife up as the lamb to the slaughter? I don't know, but the good news is, however chaotic things got, the heroes persevered and won, and that's what I think we could take from this. It's heroic. I mean, Molly Solverson persevered against an incompetent administration, one that was closed to her because she was a woman, wanted to keep her in her place, but she kept going. She would not quit. Even the FBI guys would not quit. And even Gus, once he saw the error of his ways, he wouldn't quit. And in the end, they sort of all team up and they do what good folks do. They conquer bad people.
Yeah. That was the hopeful message of the show. She was a ray of light, and she was reason and a sea of incompetence. And when I thought she died in the big snowstorm, I was like, no, she was the reason I could continue watching. But then luckily she made it through. And yeah, it was good to see her get with Gus and have a family. And at the end, that last scene with they're sitting on the couch and it's like, they got the bad guys, you know, it was good. It was a good moment.
Yeah, no matter how dark it got, look, she got what she wanted. She's the chief of police. She has, you know, a baby on the way. She married the man who loves her. Gus became a postman, which is what he's always wanted to do before. The good guys triumphed. They in the end, they got everything they wanted, and the bad guys went the way of the bad. Yeah. The way people who live their lives by vice go.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking yesterday because I hadn't finished watching episode 9 when we talked yesterday, and then I watched 9 and 10, and I was like, up until this point, I was like, what's the message of this? What is the message? What's the theme of this show? I'm not seeing it yet. And then after I'm watching the last episode, I was very pleased that in the end, good prevails. Yeah. It was a real messy way to get there, but real messy and gory way to get there. But in the end, good prevails.
And that's why I could say I like the show a day or two later.
Yeah.
I couldn't say it while I was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard and depressing, but you know, I mean, that is life. It's hard and depressing to watch sometimes. So Allie, again for $5. What do y'all think of Lauren's use of the biblical parallels to take out the king guy? He even had his pills replaced with Adderall, and then she says, "I have a lot to say."
Yeah, I mean, more food for the more fodder for the Lucifer analogy. It was a particularly sadistic and specific way to take somebody out. That's why I said it was very much like Count of Monte Cristo. Even though Count of Monte Cristo is getting revenge on bad people, he tailors the revenge to their particular vice. And that's what Lorne Malvo, I think, did with Oliver Platt's characters. He drove him crazy. And that's pretty sadistic.
Was it a parable that he had the guy read? That the gym guy that he eventually taped his hands to the chair and got him shot by the SWAT team. But remember when he read he read like the ransom letter to the grocery king? Was that it sounded like a biblical parable. I really should have looked it up.
I don't remember.
It was this long speech about I think there was a wolf involved, and no, it was about a boy who was outside in the snow and cold and couldn't come inside, wasn't allowed to come inside, and was looking at the people that were inside and they were warm. So the little boy was cold and hungry, and he was looking inside the house, and the people in the house were warm and laughing and eating, and the boy was asking, why can't that be me? Why can't I go inside and be warm? And then he says, do you understand what I'm saying to the grocery king? I can't remember his character name. And the king says, yes, yeah, I get it, I understand. So that was something I meant to kind of follow up on, but in a way, I thought, was that a personal story that Lorne is telling, or is this all just to like get in his head and drive him absolutely bonkers?
Was that before the king had the revelation what to do with the money?
It was right before, because the king then was scared and decided and was going to take the money and give it to him. And then he has the revelation as he's driving up the parking structure.
I don't know, but we don't have to know all of Lorne's motivations. As long as it made the man miserable and kept him on his heels and panicked, that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I think we're about out of time here. Are you guys going to do a clubhouse?
I don't know if we've set up a clubhouse. I'm sort of inclined to skip it today just because there's a bunch of stuff that I have to finish doing.
As well, I have to pick up Frankie at the vet's, so everybody knows that Frankie's there right now. I gotta pick him up at 3:00, huh?
Frankie's sick.
No, he's not sick. He just has a little issue. Anyway, guys, so what are we going to do? Are we doing something next week?
We're doing something different next week. Hopefully that you guys are excited, but we are going to do, are we going to tell them?
Yeah.
I think we should.
Okay. Yeah. We are going to stop and look back over the 13 shows that we've covered, and we're going to give out some awards to the shows, to the characters and the stories that we've so far seen. So hopefully you'll tune in for that. And this is all inspired from Leonard Peikoff's Discovering Great Plays. He does a section of questions after he's gone through the 6 or 7 plays. He asks these questions. Who was the strongest character or heroine? Who was the most admirable hero? Things like that. So we're going to, in the spirit of that, we're going to do that with TV Talk.
It's the TV Talk award show.
Yes.
Yes. So go ahead.
Sorry, we got one last final chat that I want to hit. Ellie, for $5, what did you think of the Neighborhood Watch guy's story about the rich man who gave it all away? I liked that story. I think that's like here's what altruism gets you.
Yeah, I did like that as well. And I wonder if it was inspired anything Rand or objectivist.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
It certainly shows that altruism is a spiral of misery.
Yeah, and it ends, the only proper way it can end is in death. So
and the next show we're going to cover,
we are thinking that we're going to cover Ozarks, I think, right? Is it Ozark? Ozark. What do you guys think about that? You can put it in the chat, or you can tweet it. But we think that we want to do Ozark. And then, so when are we?
Yeah, that would be, so February 11th, we'll do the award show. Mm-hmm. And then February 25th, we will do Ozark.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not sure if I can do that. I think I'm going to be in London.
We'll figure out. So we'll work it out offline. We'll figure out a thing offline. We can always take a mini little spring break. Everybody takes a spring break.
Right, and there's 4 seasons of Ozark to catch up on, so that'll.
Are we going to do all those seasons?
Yeah, we could just watch one, but I think once you watch one, you're interested in watching 2. Once you see 2, you want to go to 3. Yeah. I don't know. It's just the way that story is. All right, guys. Well, it's been great. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's episode of TV Talk. This has been Mark Pellegrino, Jennifer Bouani, and Jacqueline Schumann. And we bid you adieu until next week.
Bye.